You new to Python? Have you ever looked at coding tutorials and thought, yeah, this is not for me? Then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Oliver, tutor and PhD candidate at UC Berkeley, and welcome to Python for Real People. This is the first part of my three-part series, Introduction to Python for Real People. This course is meant for complete beginners, those that need a refresher, and students taking courses like UC Berkeley's Data 8, C88C, the CS61 series, A, B, and C, Data 140, and others. Today, we're going to tackle thinking in code, code controls, and functions, all with real-life examples. Let's get started. In Python, one equal sign means is assigned value. So here on line 3, I'm making a variable called my_variable, and I'm saying my variable is assigned value 5. So my variable is assigned the value the number 5. Now, my other variable is assigned value, quote, 5. Let's look at what happens when we run this code block. We can see that my variable gives us a value of 5, the number 5. Okay, if we keep going down, like I said, one equal sign is assigned value. A two equal sign means is equal to as a question. So if I wanted to ask, are these two variables the same? I could write my variable is equal to my other variable with a question mark. Now what I get back is false. False represents the value 0 and true represents the value 1. That's where that binary system comes from. So here we're going to get true back because as we saw above, my variable is assigned value the number 5. What does all this mean? So this shows us that variables in Python, they have value, but they also have different data types. So some of the very common data types you'll use in Python are whole numbers, which are called integers. You have decimal numbers, which are called floats, and values that are in quotations are called strings. So we can use a built-in Python function type to check what the type is of my variable, and we get back int or integer. It's a whole number, it's just the number 5. Now we can run the type function on my other variable, and we're going to get back a string, str or string. So anything that's in quotes is a string variable. And you can see that that's different from the different type, and we can see that they have different value. They're not equal to each other. So one equal sign is assignment, two equal signs is a comparison. Think about it that way. Code controls. So let's go over a scenario. Say a teacher has a bunch of quiz scores and they want to get letter grades for every score. Now, this is going to lead us into probably the most widely used code control method, which is the if statement. As a side note, the word statement, which you will likely see, is kind of another way just to say code or code block. So saying the if statement is just like saying if code. So the way that the if statement works, or if code, is you write if something is true. So you have some condition up here after you write the word if. So if that thing is true, then underneath some code that you want to have run if that something is true. Now, if that something is not true, you never go to the line below that's indented, and instead you drop down to the next part that has an else. So now we're going to say else if something else is true. And if that something else is true, then we do that other thing, whatever other thing we want to write in the code. It could be anything. Now, if neither of those first two are true, then we get down to the last else, which is like a catch-all. So you say else if none of the above were true, then we do this last thing. Now, the way it works when you chain these things together with if, else, if, you can have many else, if, and then finally an else. The way it works is once the first thing is true and you go into that part that's underneath indented, you don't run any of the other checks. So in other words, let's say if the first thing was true, we would then run this part I've highlighted, the part underneath that's indented, and we would never get to these other 4 lines of code. So let's see this in action for this teacher. This teacher has some quiz scores here. You can see we have a variable Q1. is assigned value, the number 92, integer. We have quiz 2 is assigned value 83, another integer, and so forth. Down here, when we get to quiz 5, Q5 is assigned value 58, so they didn't do quite as well on the 5th quiz, but that's okay. Now, this is what the if, else if, else if, else if, else statement would look like in our code. So you can see that we're saying if the Q1 variable is greater than or equal to 90, then grade 1 variable is assigned value, quote, capital A. We have on line 9, 11, and 13, elif. So that is just a shorthand for saying else if. So elif is just shorthand for else if. So what we're saying is we're checking if quiz 1 has a grade greater than or equal to 90. If so, that's the string capital A, grade 1. Else, if the quiz score greater than or equal to 80, then grade 1 is assigned value, string capital B, and so forth. But if we don't get to any of these, then we have a final else that's like a catch-all that will say grade 1 is assigned value, string capital F. So this works. There's nothing wrong about doing this, but imagine instead of having just these 5 quiz scores, imagine you have to do this for 500 students or 500 students that each have 5 quizzes. This would end up being a lot of code to do that. What do we do then? The trick is we want to start thinking about reusable code, which are where functions come in. So functions are a way to create reusable blocks of code then that can reduce how many times we're rewriting the same logic over and over. All right, so we're going to make a function. We make this function using the def keyword, it stands for define. So we define a function called getLetterGrade. We're calling it getLetterGrade because that's exactly what the function will do for us. It will get the letter grade for an input score. So whatever you put in the parentheses next to the name of your function when you define it, that will be the input argument to the function. You can have multiple things here. For example, if we wanted to say argument 2, that would mean that this function getLetterGrade takes in a score argument and an argument 2, comma separated inside of parentheses. We're just going to leave it as one input argument. Okay, so score. So what happens is when you run this function, you can give it a different score value, and then instead of saying grade 1 is assigned value of A, we're using this return keyword. A return is another keyword in Python that's specifically used for functions. What a return says, it says exit the function here and give me back this value. So if the score is greater than or equal to 90, we're saying exit the function here, give me back the string capital A. Now, if we go to use this function below, we can see that now instead of having to rewrite this whole if, elif, else, we can just call the function with different values of score or quiz scores. All right, so let's see what those quiz scores were. So we get 92 for the first one, 83 for the second one, and 77 for the third one. Great. Now let's see what the grades actually were that came out of those. They should match A, B, C, and they do. Awesome. Today we learned to think like a coder, make decisions with code controls, and create reusable code with functions. In part 2, we'll power up with higher order functions, HOFs, and list comprehension, the secret sauce for real data tasks. If this helped, drop a like and tell me your first Python aha moment in the comments. Also, if you want today's fully annotated code, comment notebook below. See you in part 2.